Welcome back to Integrate This podcast and another edition of our Tech in 10 segments. And today we are diving in further into Google Classroom. Specifically, Google released a lot of AI integrations into Google Classroom, hoping to make things easier and more efficient for teachers to be able to do. And so we looked in a previous episode at how to create choice boards and design rubrics, as well as create decodables. And today, David is going to kind of further dive into some of those Gemini tools, looking at tackling common misconceptions, writing a story, and creating reading comprehension questions. So, David, why don't you take it away for this episode?
All right, sounds good. So if you watch the first video, you kind of know what the gist is here, but the cards that are available to us in Gemini is really what we're trying to cover. And I want to just point out real quickly that there is, if you notice, there's different icons. I would just encourage anybody to check out a lot of what Jeremy and I are doing are covering these with the logos on them and giving you a sense for what those look like or how you fill those in. If you get a chance and can check out the ones with the stars as well, those are like preloaded prompts. They'll shoot you over to Gemini and give you an idea of what you should be writing into there, and it kind of just helps the process along. But with my first one, I'm going to do this tackle common misconceptions. And with all of these, what we're always getting is you're getting like where you're going to fill out whatever the card requires of you in these templates. So like in this one, I could put in the grade level, and then let's say for the topic, I'm going to put in heavier objects fall faster than lighter objects. So this would be one example of tackling common misconceptions that you could have your students try. And so when we hit generate, what it's going to do is process that information, and then it's going to give us what we could use with the students. And it'll kind of depend too, like how many it gives us, but you'll notice that it's going to approach this from the instructor's point of view. And so you'll get, here's our topic that we had. So constant acceleration due to gravity, it filled that piece in, connecting to what I put in as the topic. Gives you, what's the purpose of this guide? And then what it'll do is it'll list out misconceptions and draw those out, and then put in what strategies you can use as the instructor to address that. So you'll have to kind of search through and figure out which ones you want to use. And maybe what it is too is you take the misconceptions out, and you maybe even wait on the strategies to address each one, and just see what students come up with for misconceptions, and see if they start to pull out some of the similar misconceptions that were drawn out in the guide. We got 5, so we'd have to kind of look through and see, what were the misconceptions that were there. And if you had students brainstorm together, they could list out what they think misconceptions would be, and then you could try to match those to what was the list that was given to you. But once you maybe have done that, then you can kind of move into addressing those misconceptions. And it'll give you for each one a variety of ways to do that. And it'll list those out here. And then it'll give you some activities that would correlate to that. So again, this is going to just require that you have this produced, and then you go through and figure out which of these you want to use. Because there's pretty extensive examples here, and a lot of them, in this case, with the topic that we did with the heavier objects, a lot of it's kind of like scientific experiments. So many of the strategies are going to involve doing experiments with students. It'll probably change depending on what you put in there for your topic. But as you can see, there's no shortage of options here for tackling the misconceptions that were drawn out of it. And maybe you focus on one, or maybe you have time to go through a number of them with that unit. So if you feel satisfied with this, You can export directly to docs, and then you can kind of go from there, and however you want to use that with the students, you can. So that's tackling common misconceptions. That's a good one to check out. We'll go back here. Okay, so our second one is write a story, and we're gonna see right away that this one is laid out a bit differently than our tackling misconceptions one. This one is going to, you could put in quite a bit more if you want to. So for our example, we're just gonna plug in a couple different things here. One of them is going to be obviously our grade level, which is pretty common. It's going to ask for that. And I'm just going to grab this here and plug this in, and we'll do for grade 10. And this one is a little bit more extensive. We're going to pull in just this piece. So generate 3 different opening paragraphs for the same story. And the plot of the story or scenario is a detective finds a single mud-covered boot in a high-tech sterile laboratory. And the idea with this one is to draft paragraphs in 3 different points of view so that the students can start writing the story based on one of those points of view. So in the paragraph 1, write in the first person point of view. We have paragraph 2, write in the third person limited point of view. And then the paragraph 3 is right in the third person omniscient point of view. So it gives the students a couple different options for how they want to tackle starting that, but they're all going to be working from the same plot, and they get to choose what path they want to go down for the point of view. Now, the additional notes and the keywords to include, those are optional, but you might find them useful. Maybe what we do is we include something like this in our notes. We can paste this in. So the detective should be treated as old-fashioned, tired, and a bit grumpy. So it starts to give some character specifics, like how are these people acting or different things like that. So you could go whatever direction you want with this. That's totally fine. And then we might want to also include some keywords that you want them to be thinking about, or maybe they connect to something else. Maybe if it's like a vocab connection or something like that, you could always do. But we'll put in sterile and fluorescent. And then what we've got here is our kind of our direction for what we want to create. So we're going to go ahead and hit generate. Okay, so now that it has produced our kind of given our direction, and then what you're going to see here is our opening paragraph, and then it actually labels each one because of our directions that we set in. So opening paragraph 1, first person, opening paragraph 2, third person limited, and then 3, third person omniscient. So again, the idea here is then because we were able to create that for our 10th grade students, now they can take and they can use the opening paragraph to work off of and then start to produce their own story with that. So this is just going to be getting them going in that direction. And then I would say too, like in a situation like this, you can have them look through that first opening paragraph as an example, and then maybe even talk about each one with your students and say, this is our first person example. Is there anything you'd improve with it? Maybe have them evaluate it a little bit, make some changes first, and then set off on, continuing the story once they've selected that and they feel good about what it is. Then down here, it does have some takeaways for the writer, which is kind of cool because we didn't really say anything about that, but it does give some pointers. So as they do go down that road of creating their own story, here's some things, some little tips to keep in mind dependent upon the one that they chose. So if they chose third person limited, our opening paragraph 2, down here, it's just a little reminder of how you should be thinking about that, and what will be helpful as you craft the rest of the story. So then from there, you can export to docs if you want, similar to everything else, or you can add it to the class too. And let's say we want to just put this right in our class, and we're going to do, we'll do this as a material. confirm, and then it's going to add that to our class. So once we pull in here, we can say our Novatech anomaly paragraph starters. Feel good about that. We post, and it is now brought over into our class right here. So students can click on that and go directly into it, and then they can go off on their own. All right, so our last one that we're going to do is developing reading comprehension questions. And again, it's going to be tailored to the style that is going to help that specific build. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to designate that this is for our third graders. We're going to do 3 questions, and then this is optional, but I think it's helpful because you are determining what kind of question types you want right away, and that's going to help the process along. So in this case, we're just going to say we want multiple choice and open-ended questions. And then from there, you get to decide what are the skills or knowledge that you want students to demonstrate. So what you can do is you can either choose your ones that are already available. So let's say we want to choose craft and structure or make inferences, either way. But I want to just point out that you can also write your own. So let's say we wanted to include identify the main idea of the passage. So just keep in mind, if there's something specific you want them to do, you can do that or choose the kind of predetermined ones here. And then lastly, for the last piece of this, we want to include the text. And there's a couple ways you can do that. You can just copy and paste, which is what we're going to do. Or if we want to, we can also upload from Drive right here if you have a document that you've already got in mind for developing these reading comprehension questions. But we're going to paste this in, and then we're going to generate our questions. And then here's what we get. So we have our multiple choice questions here. You'll notice that as we chose the multiple choice and open-ended, it decided that these were going to be 3 multiple choice. So just something to be aware of. But either way, what you can do is you can then export those to docs or forms. And remember, once you get them over to those tools from Google Classroom, there's further editing that can happen. So you can pretty much use this over and over again and even generate some new questions off of there. But again, move it over to forms, then deliver it to your students in whatever way you see fit. You can add it to class like we did with our previous tool, but a lot of good stuff to check out here. And so hopefully you'll find something useful from this.